Hey y'all, welcome back to Call to Coaching. This is episode 7, and this week we've got legendary Oklahoma basketball coach Rhonda Fields. Coach Fields got over 500 wins in Oklahoma high school basketball. She's coached small schools to big schools. She played professional women's basketball. She played college basketball, and she's just a great communicator. And man, one of the cool things is she lived right through Title IX, and if anybody knows female sports, they know how important Title IX is, and she was a big part of it. So, such a cool story. We talk faith and family, and even throw a little FCA in there. So, it's a great interview with Coach Fields, and I think we'll definitely try to get her back for a part 2. So, I really hope you enjoy it. Hey, thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing and getting them and be a part of the coaching, Call to Coaching community. It's so cool to get to see you guys out in public and everybody that shoots me the text or give me a call, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Don't forget, MW Outdoor Power and Engine Repair, 212 West Broadway. It's right across the park there in Sulphur. And it's got the muffler shop right there with it. Hey, they have got you covered for all your Traeger, all your bad boy mowers, all your chainsaws, weed eaters, and grill parts, like all the parts for all the above. It's an awesome little place. I love to go in there and just kind of chew the fat with everybody that works in there and just go hang out. They love this podcast. They support this podcast, so go support them. All right, y'all. No more hold up. Let's get to it. Episode 7, Coach Rhonda Fields. All right.
Hello.
Episode 7 of Called to Coaching with legendary, now retired basketball coach, Coach Rhonda Fields. Now she's a full-time rancher. So thank you for taking a little time off from the ranch and brush hogging and working cows.
Thank you for asking me to take that time off. When you're driving a tractor, it's not a big mental job to do, So it's kind of nice to get away and come do something different.
Well, good. I heard recently you've been doing some advisory work in the gym. You can't stay out of the gym.
I can't. I tried to retire once before. When we first moved down here, my dad had open heart surgery. And so that year we spent helping on the ranch. But that was a real reality check to me at that time that I thought I might be ready to retire, but I certainly wasn't. So I went back and coached 6 more years.
Yeah.
And it's not that I want to go back and coach full time again because I know I can't commit to that lifestyle anymore. But just to have a day in the gym every now and then, just like it kind of refreshes my soul.
Yeah, I understand. So you talk about the ranch. How long has your family had the ranch out north of town?
Well, now my family's been ranchers I'm 4th generation.
Yes, ma'am.
And this ranch here in Sulphur belonged to my grandfather and my dad.
Okay.
It was a land trade back in the 80s. Our ranch was at Stigler, Oklahoma, over on the Arkansas River.
Yes, ma'am.
And this place that we have now was called the Turkey Creek Ranch.
Okay.
So I'm 3rd generation on this ranch, but we used to ranch over in eastern Oklahoma also.
That is some great Oklahoma history right there. It really is. So land trade y'all ended up in Sulphur in the 80s. Did you go to school? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma. I graduated from Panama High School.
Okay.
And for people that aren't familiar and only think of South America, it's Panama between Poto and Spiro.
Okay. I've got a really good friend, Chelsea Beard. They're from out at Panama. Drew Beard's wife.
I know
Panama
all of their family. Her father is I think he was a senior maybe when I was a sophomore.
Okay.
And then he had brothers and sisters also in school right around the same age.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've known Chelsea's family since the middle 70s.
That is awesome. It's such a small world when it comes down to it, how everybody knows everybody.
It is. And when she and Drew married, that was the first thing. It was like, oh, I know her. She's such a sweet person.
That's awesome. So, growing up, did you play any ball, or did you compete all the time, or was you ranching all the time, or what was that like?
Yes, yes, and yes. I played basketball and softball,
Yeah.
and I was a barrel racer and a pole bender.
Okay.
We showed registered Appaloosas,
Yeah.
and I did Western Pleasure and cutting horse. I mean, yeah, we anything that was, I guess, not in the house is
Yeah.
what I did. We were outside all the time, working on the ranch or doing stuff like that, or I was in the gym.
Yeah.
So, it was a nice life. I enjoyed my childhood, but it was all around sports and animals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad thing at all.
No, it's
I
not.
love that. So as coming up in Panama, was there anybody that really influenced you to get into coaching? Like how'd that come around? So you decided one day I'm gonna be a coach.
Sort of. It evolved because, I am of the age that women before me did not have scholarship offers to school.
Yeah.
So pretty much the schools that did play girls basketball, it was play in high school, have a successful team, and then that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
Well, in 1973, Title IX said that we're going to make this equal and girls are going to have an opportunity to get scholarships.
Let's go.
Well, I was a sophomore in high school. Well, you think, 3 years. I graduated in 1976, and I was the first female full scholarship athlete at Eastern State in Wilburton. Because junior
is
colleges were the first ones in the implementation process.
Yeah.
So in 73, when it was signed into law, then it was about 3 years of getting it implemented. So by 1976, junior colleges were offering full rides, but four-year schools were not. So,
Okay.
of course, I went to junior college.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was about 45 minutes from
Yeah.
Panama. And,
Perfect.
it was a good situation, but it was an opportunity that I never, ever, ever took for granted because I was right there on that line of knowing that the girls before me didn't have those opportunities and that the girls that came after me could go
Yeah.
no telling stratosphere, because
sure.
it was just at that time that it was really starting to open up and sort of get some respect.
Yeah.
Now, that word has had a lot of gray area for me over time
Yeah.
because even though I coached for 10 years, and I played in college and I went on to OSU, respect was very hard earned in the coaching ranks.
Yeah.
So, that was just, and for me, it was just an additional challenge.
Yeah.
I wanted the men coaches to respect me as a coach the way I wanted other players to respect me as a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a lot of meeting different challenges.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Did you ever get to play for a female coach?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I played for Judy Boofer
Okay.
at Oklahoma State. And she was a trailblazer before my generation in that back in the 60s and early 70s, there were some schools that they're college women, they had women's teams, but they were more on a, I don't know what I'm trying to say, entertainment
Yeah.
level.
Okay.
So, the Wayland Baptist Flying Queens. There was a very wealthy man there in that area, in that community. He volunteered to fly these college players all over the country.
Oh, wow.
And they were given benefits to go to school there and play sports, but that was still before Title IX.
Yeah.
So they didn't get scholarships. But everyone that was interested in women playing any kind of sports knew about the Wayland Baptist Flying Queens. That was the name of that basketball team. So my coach at Oklahoma State had been a member of that team.
Oh my gosh.
She was an Oklahoma girl from Noble, Oklahoma, that went to Texas and played basketball. And so talk about a trailblazer.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, she was awesome. We had our challenges back then, but they were similar to what I was talking about earlier, just, gaining respect.
Yeah.
And wanting to be known as, true competitors rather than, this is just a bunch of women wanting to,
entertainment. Yeah.
So anyway,
This is the game before the boys' game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just definitely been something that my timing through all of this is, has been just amazing. And I think that to tie it all in with what we're talking about, over time, as I walk through in my Christian walk, it made me appreciate so much more the timing of everything, because in my belief, that was all God's idea.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about it. And I wasn't real smart. I just knew that I was tall and athletic and I could play basketball, and this is great. But, then over time, as you mature and you say, man, I was so fortunate, but God was so good.
That's right. Yeah, that is awesome. So I knew a little bit of your Title IX story because when you spoke at FCA last year, yeah. I think, was there an anniversary last year for Title IX?
Well, 2023.
2023?
We're still in it.
Oh, okay. So it's this year. Yeah, I guess it was at the end of the last school year.
Yeah, it was at the end
year.
Actually, it was toward one of their last meetings,
yes,
I think.
I
that
think
they
it
just
was.
Had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the year anniversary because it was, I believe it was signed in January.
Oh, okay.
Of 1973.
Okay.
So basically, year-wise, it's an anniversary.
Okay.
But
it's a big deal. I have two daughters. It's a big deal for our girls now, still in 2023.
Well, and it's enjoyable to see that they're interested in the history of it, and all that, because I enjoyed sports and I was interested in the history. And, my history of reading into sports goes back to this guy by the name of Naismith nailed a peach basket up on a tree, and that started it all. And that was amazing. But now we've evolved to the point that, women are professional basketball players and have opportunities in college sports, professional sports. So, a lot's happened since 1973.
Absolutely. And all over the world, even.
Right.
I mean, some of our biggest talents, for a long time, were still going overseas to play during the off season so they could make enough money to have basketball as a career.
Right.
But now it's coming around to where they're actually making enough money in America they can stay here and play basketball.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Title
y'all were really
IX.
trailblazers back then. I mean, really.
That's why I said I really feel like I was blessed with all of this. I never thought when I was in high school that I would play college basketball, because I just didn't realize that it could be available. I didn't think that I would be a basketball coach because I only knew two women coaches at that time. One was actually close to me down in LaFleur County.
Okay.
Nadine Carpenter was a very successful coach at LaFleur High School. And then Karen Knight, who is married to Bobby Knight.
Oh, okay.
She was a very successful high school coach out in western Oklahoma. And that was only two women coaches that I knew, and they were in small schools because back in the 60s and 70s, the really small schools were the only ones that played.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when I came to Sulphur, their girls had not played basketball very long.
And were they still, did they call that 6-on-6?
Mm-hmm. 6-on-6.
So they were still 6-on-6 then?
The first 9 years that I coached basketball, I coached 6-on-6.
Okay.
And that's since we're local here, Sulphur and everything, that was kind of a turning point in my career as a coach, was right here at Sulphur. And we had a really good team. I had good athletes coming back. We just had a really good rapport. I was so excited. And I thought, this is it. This 5A and 6A that year had a mandatory change.
Yeah.
They had to switch to 5-on-5, but the smaller schools didn't. And I was very active in the Oklahoma Girls Basketball Coaches Association that year.
Yeah.
And so when the season was over, I couldn't wait to go to the conference meeting and, see what the temperature was of the other coaches and give my spiel about 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, did I get shot down in a hurry. It was
Really?
like
They wanted to stay 6-on-6?
Well, what happened here, and I'm going to be brutally honest,
Yeah.
It was a conference of older coaches.
Yeah.
And I was one of the younger coaches and a woman.
Yeah.
And I think that the mentality at that time was, I'm not ready to retire. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to make these changes late in the game.
Yeah, I'm too old to learn any
Right,
of this.
right.
To implement this.
But it just crushed me because, I had the opportunity to play 5-on-5 in college.
Yeah.
I knew it was a game girls could play.
Yes. Yeah.
That made me angry. That one right there.
Was that kind of the argument? Was like,
girls can't play
run full court?
5-on-5. They can't endure the, pace of the game, and they can't do that. And it was just, excuses.
Yeah.
But, I was living proof
Yeah.
that you could. And I was, like I said a while ago, when I'm in, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I just thought, we're holding these girls back.
Mm-hmm.
We're, and when I came home from that conference meeting, I told my husband, I said, they're not going to change. And I said, I just am devastated for these kids, but this is coming.
Yeah.
And I want to be on the cutting edge side of it. Yeah. And so I said, as much as I really call sulfur home,
Mm-hmm.
I want to coach 5-on-5.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I played. I want to coach 5-on-5. I'd been coaching 6-on-6 for 9 years.
Yeah.
So I talked to 2 other friends that were coaches up around the Oklahoma City area. And the next day, they called me and said, Chickasha's open. Were you aware of that? Were you really serious?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I've had time to sleep on it, and I think I'm serious because I really believe that the movement on this needs to be just get more positive things going toward 5-on-5, and everybody will realize that it's something that these girls can do.
Yeah.
But it took a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
I coached at Chickasha for 10 years, and the first 3 years I was there was difficult in that was the reason the coach left, was because of the mandatory change.
Yeah.
He coached 1 year, 5-on-5, and then left because he did not want to
He's
coach
just
the
like, I'm not
5-on-5.
doing that.
So when I came in, there was a little bit of a feeling of, they only knew negative things about it.
Yeah.
They didn't really feel good about playing the game.
Yeah. This is an interesting perspective I've never thought of. What were the players' thoughts? Like the girls here that were still doing 6-on-6. Like,
Well,
do you think the players were excited at 5-on-5, or like you said, kind of they've heard a bunch of negative and kind of scared, or like what was the player perspective on that?
Leadership starts at the top.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I think the girls here, and I still am friends with a lot of them and talk to them and everything, they felt confident that it was something they could do.
Absolutely.
And they've had the confidence to want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I hate that I feel like there was a battle lost here that I just couldn't fight at that time.
Yeah.
And of course, it stayed. I don't even remember now the exact years that the smaller schools went 5-on-5.
It had to be late 80s, didn't it?
Well,
Or maybe even further than that.
Oh, it was longer than that because my first year I was here at Sulphur from '85 till the school year of '90.
Okay, so maybe 93.
Yeah,
Because I can
and-
remember at Velma, I wasn't in Velma. Me and my mom lived in Oklahoma City, but and everybody up there was playing 5-on-5 already.
Yeah.
But I can remember coming down here to see my dad, and they were still playing 6-on-6 and being just like,
Yeah.
this is wild.
Yeah.
And then a few years after that, they switched over to, and I was probably 12 or 13-ish, so that had been 92, 93.
But the thing about that change was that was a change that was it just like in 6A, 5A and 6A. That was a change that was mandated by the OSSAA.
Yeah.
Well, then when it was mandated here, then the change was made. I don't think, I don't want you to underestimate the mentality against the 5-on-5 in the a lot of the male coaching circles.
Yeah.
They did not want it. And so, it wasn't like there was a change in mentality.
Yeah.
It was a mandatory change. And the girls in Sulphur just continue to prove to all the ones that were naysayers back in the day that girls can play 5-on-5 and do it very well.
And, it seems so foreign now.
It does.
It's like, whoa, that was because we played the staff versus students, and they asked me to play, and we had a quarter where we played 5-on-5. We did a quarter where you could only do so much, and different things.
Yeah, for
we did a
fun.
quarter where we did 5-on-5, 6-on-6, excuse me, and we were like, well, you can only run, halfway, and the girls were like, this is the dumbest thing, this is crazy, and I was going, it really is. It seems so foreign now.
And I don't have hard feelings or anything about it. It was what it was.
Yeah.
It was a challenge at the time, and I was up for that. Let's just meet the challenges and move forward.
Yeah.
But I do wish that some of the athletes today could go back to some of my friends, and that we've always been friends, but could just tell them that to their face, say, hey, this is the dumbest thing ever. Exactly. And yet I have to defend it, because it was not the dumbest thing for Oklahoma girls basketball at its time.
Yeah, I understand
Oklahoma girls basketball and Texas girls basketball and Iowa girls basketball was extremely strong and popular.
Yeah.
And it was 6-on-6.
Yes.
So,
my mom played 6-on-6 and was a stud, and she talks about it glowingly, and.
Well, see, I played 6-on-6 in high school.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
she always talks about, I think I could have run the floor with you, though I would tell her. You're
Say,
crazy.
no, Mom, you got to stop at that half line, remember?
So, okay, let's go back just a little bit. So you went to college, you come out of college, a female coach, looking for a coaching job in a very male-oriented field.
No, we skipped something.
What did we skip there?
When I finished playing basketball at Oklahoma State, there was an organizational group called the WBA.
Okay.
The Women's Basketball, WBL, I'm sorry, Women's Basketball League.
Okay.
And it was professional women's basketball.
Let's go. How did I skip your pro basketball player?
Because it's no longer the WBL. It is now the WNBA.
That is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
what was that like? Where'd you go play in?
Dallas.
Dallas,
I
Texas.
played for the Dallas Diamonds.
That is amazing. What was that like? What was that experience like compared to from OSU to the Dallas Diamonds?
Because there's such a discrepancy between men's sports then and now and professional sports and all of that. Josh and I have had this conversation.
Yeah.
And it became less of a game and more of a job.
Yeah.
It was just something that I was always just all in. Let's play, let's compete. What do we got to do to win? Let's do this, let's do that. And at times in Dallas, I kind of felt like there was a little cutthroat.
Yeah.
It was people's livelihoods at that time. I enjoyed playing, and I'm glad I got the experience. And I think it helped me later on down the road when my son was playing, because you just amplify that feeling by a million, you know.
Yeah.
But I had an idea, and I understood some of the things that he went through that weren't some of the more positive things.
Yeah.
Because there was kind of a parallel in some of it, but I enjoyed it, and I had to quit because of an injury. And so I got injured in December on the road. We were playing in Chicago. And so with this injury, I had to have surgery.
Yeah.
So they flew me back to Dallas. And I had knee surgery before the team got back off the road.
Goodness.
But you would, what we would do back then was we would, our road trips were called sweeps. We would make a sweep. We would go out and we would play in 3 different states,
Yeah.
in 5 different days. You'd have a day off in between travel and then come home.
Yeah.
So I just remember feeling so alone, talking to my parents on the phone, no cell phones,
Yeah.
I'm in a room. And I had knee surgery before the team even got back off that sweep. And the doctor told me no more.
Sheesh.
That was my 3rd knee surgery. So by January, I was back in Oklahoma looking for a job.
Man.
And I still had student teaching to do.
Yeah.
So it was elementary student teaching. I had already done my high school student teaching before I left Oklahoma State. So I went to Pawnee,
Yeah.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and I did my student teaching there in the spring. And now you're caught up.
Okay.
Then in the spring, then I started really considering that this is what I want to do for my career and started looking to coach.
What was that process like, starting that process of, okay, here we go. We're going down the coaching road. Because like I said, male-dominated field, a lot of,
again, we go back to my good timing.
Yeah.
And how good God's always been to me.
That's right.
I mean, now Title IX is behind us by a few years.
Mm-hmm.
All of that implementation process has taken place. I had a chance to go play professionally. And then it kind of became, I'm in the habit of challenging myself.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
Absolutely.
If I'm driving the tractor, this line's going to be straighter than the next line, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't have any trouble at all getting a job.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Everybody
Coach,
wanted to hire a girl.
I was going to say, Coach, I mean, if a
Well-
pro player comes back, come on. You got to be a hot commodity on the coaching market.
More so now maybe than back then, But anyway, a lot of schools wanted to hire a female coach to coach their female athletes.
That's
so
great.
I didn't have any trouble finding a job. The thing I started thinking in my mind, and this was about the first probably 5 or 6 years that I coached, was I don't want to be hired because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I want to be hired because I'm the best coach.
Yeah. You're the best coach for that
so
job.
I saw that in the beginning of, well, like you said, okay, well, I did play college and professional sports. So that does make, but everybody was, and I saw it happen in other places too, where schools did hire females, but they didn't turn out to be the best for that coaching job.
Yeah.
And so, that became my challenge, was that I didn't want to just be a female coach. I wanted to be a coach that people hired because they knew that they would get winning results.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
yet, I never won a state championship.
Ugh.
And I'm not that sad about it because as a competitor, I would love to have won a state championship. I got close a lot of times, but the relationships and the other things that I've been able to be involved in through all of that make that not so much an issue now at this point in my life.
Yeah. That's what everybody who's watched these episodes, I just truly believe, all the people that's watched this know, and they've heard me say this over and over, but I think that what you do as coaches is as much of a calling as anything, like a minister or, whatever the deal is. I think coaching is such a calling because of those right there, the relationships that you build and and the values that you've instilled in your players and all those things that will last for so many lifetimes beyond me and you.
Yeah.
I think it's just an amazing. It's just why I do this. That's why I do FCA. It's why I had coaches that were such an influence on me, and I think that's a big deal.
It's very rewarding. I'm going through a little bit of a hard time right now in my personal life because we just lost my father, and my father was a big influence in the sports and the animals and all that. We did enjoyed doing a lot of the same things, but the outpouring from my former players and former coaches, and even kids that were managers on teams that I had years ago and all that, it's just been overwhelming.
Yes.
To see that, knowing what I'm going through right now, that those kids, those adults, those parents, those
Yes.
that they care and
Yeah.
that they remember, because I remember them.
Yeah, and you made an impact on them that probably changed the way they do most of their life.
Oh, I don't know, but it's more than sports,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
all good coaches will say that.
Yep, and it's more than
because
records.
It's more than records. It's more than that. It's coming back later on and having someone tell you that you made a positive influence on their life.
ma'am.
It's like, was I ever trying to win a state championship? Because I think I just won the lottery right there. When
Yeah.
someone tells you that, because positivity is something you have to practice.
Yeah.
And especially in the world today. And God gives us so much to be positive about. And I think that it's just been, for me, developing habits. Developing habits of being positive, being grateful, recognizing blessings. I'm getting a little bit emotional now because these are things that I've been living the last few weeks too. Yeah. And when it got really hard and it got really sad with my dad's situation in the hospital, my mom and I sat there one day and we said, on the way home, because we drove back and forth, she couldn't stay.
Yeah.
She's 88.
Yes, ma'am.
And so anyway, we drove back and forth, and I said, okay, every day on the trip home, we're sharing blessings. And what that did was it just made us not sink into this hole of sadness where we actually were.
Yeah.
But it also made us think about looking for things that God puts right in front of us.
Yeah. That's right.
And just, just a kind word from somebody that was sweeping the floor outside the room. A lady looks in one day and says, I see you here all the time. I just want you to know I'm praying for you.
Oh.
And it just, okay, blessings.
Yeah, the kind word of a stranger.
Yeah, and so on the way home in the evenings, and of course, we had animals to take care of and everything like that, but we would end that day at the hospital on the positive things that had happened that day. Yeah. And that's part of life, and that's why I wanted to be a positive coach, because sometimes that little bit of positive may be the thing that causes that kid to think, I need to look for positives.
Yeah, absolutely. And just
I
you
need to
sharing,
look for blessings.
Yeah, and just you sharing that. I mean, some of your former players are going to maybe come across this on somebody's Facebook, and you're going to share that right there, just what you shared. That's going to change the way they look at the tough situations they deal with.
Yeah.
Because I know if one of my coaches says something, well, that goes straight into my heart. It goes straight into my brain, goes straight into my heart, and I know it. And so I know just you sharing that is going to be a big blessing to somebody.
Well, I hope so, because you know what? Someone shared it with me.
Yes, ma'am. It
was a blessing for me from someone else, in coaching. And that was one of the things when I had the opportunity to go in the gym yesterday, or no, what's today? It's Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday? Yeah.
When you get retired, you lose track of time. You're driving a tractor.
What day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no kidding. No, when I went in the gym on Tuesday, it felt good, and it just felt comfortable. It felt familiar. But I think one reason everything is so good is that I learned early on in my coaching career through another coach that blessed me with wisdom. And you feel positive when you look for positives.
Yes, ma'am.
So my whole life, I've been in a gym looking for positives, looking for good athletes and good. And I walked in, guess where we were? We were in the armory.
Oh, yeah.
I walked in and I looked around and I said, Josh did karate in here back in like 1984.
Oh, that is awesome.
But it's just such a good feeling. And I think that, if people will, and as Christians, there's no reason not to.
That's right.
Because based on our faith, we should know how good God is.
That's right.
And so, I just think that that's something that the world itself kind of looks at things and is immediately skeptical, or negative, or or trying to figure this, and what if we just immediately thought, now how can this be positive?
Yeah.
Because most times you find out a way.
There's a way. So, speaking of your faith, how did your faith influence your coaching? I mean, you've kind of been talking about it where you look for the positive, but is there other ways that your faith really influenced your coaching and how you influence the kids?
Well, yeah, FCA, because I always was involved in our FCA chapters and everything. I wanted my girls on the team, to be involved, and so I promoted it. I didn't force it, but I promoted it. And I think the way that, you live your faith is you just live. You live your life the way you believe.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know, and so I just was going to FCA, and I reminded my team, what a good thing it was,
Yeah.
and I hope to see you there, and I guess one example. Most of the time, I just tried to lead by example.
Yeah.
I didn't cuss in front of kids.
Yeah.
I have a lot of adult friends of mine that find that hard to believe because they call it my look of intensity.
Yeah.
I'm a mean-looking person, I guess, because I guess my look says I might have just said a cuss word, but I didn't. So, that was something that I had to work on, was my appearance with my intensity face.
Yeah.
But, so I didn't want the girls hearing that
Yeah.
come from me, because we were in stressful situations, and I felt like examples of leading in a different way,
Yeah.
But when we moved back here, when my dad got sick, and I was off for a year helping, he recovered, he took over the ranch again and started operations, and I knew I really wasn't ready to retire.
Yeah.
I'd already had a year to contemplate that. So I went to Moore. They hired me at Moore, and I tried to live here and coach at Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
And it got hard.
Yeah, that
So
drive.
at the end of 2 years, and Moore to me is unfinished business. It just breaks my heart because that I had to leave when I did, because it was great kids. We had great chemistry, but I couldn't continue to live the
Yeah.
ranch life and try to get
yeah.
up there. So Wynniewood came open at that time, and it was just a blessing. It was God saying, okay, if you still want to coach,
Yeah.
maybe you can still coach a little longer,
Yeah.
So anyway, it was closer to home, and I didn't have to drive as far. But we made the decision, my husband and I both, as a family, to go to church in Wynniewood. We
Yeah.
went to Wynniewood First Baptist Church. Well, all of our friends over here were asking why. We
Yeah.
figured you'd come back to Sulphur, because I went to church in Moore also.
Yeah.
And I said, I want these kids to see that we're in church.
Yes, I love it.
I
love
mean,
it.
we can say we go to church.
Yeah, that's right.
But then if I come over here, they don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that. So
That's
sweetest.
so good. That's so good.
So we went to First Baptist Church there in Wynniewood until I retired.
Yeah.
And then
That
once
is-
I retired, then that's when we moved back here moved our church home here just because of driving so
Yes, ma'am.
far.
Yeah.
But
I just love that. I've never thought about that. But if you think, like, as a kid, when you saw your teacher, your coach at the grocery store, you were like, they buy groceries.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, they're a real person.
Hey, here's a real story. I had I couldn't have been very old because I did elementary PE for a long time too.
Yeah.
So kindergarten through fourth grade. You know, I had some
Yes.
really young ones. And I had a little boy run up to me in a grocery store. And it wasn't here in Sulphur. I'm not even going to say where, but
Yeah.
just ran up to me and he's looking over his shoulder, calling his mom. And he goes, Mom, it's Coach Fields. It's Coach Fields. She's got on clothes. Like,
Yeah. What?
I don't wear clothes at school. But no, I knew what he meant.
Yeah, he meant
I
you
had on
regular clothes.
at school I have on sweats
Yeah.
and tennis shoes and t-shirts and and I was in the grocery store wearing clothes. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to Coach Gary Rose the other day, and I was like, I can remember the first time I figured out Coach Capella had a house. I was just like, he lives here.
You
It's
thought he
amazing.
lived at
I
the
just
field
thought he was at the field house.
He has a shower.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, that is such a great thing. That is such a great thing that I hope somebody takes from this is like, let your kids see you in church. Let your athletes see you in church. That's such a great deal. So,
It's a little easier to do too in smaller communities.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I went to
Absolutely.
church in Jinx when I was coaching at Jinx,
Yeah.
and you'd see a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But then it's just so
what's
much population.
What's a challenge that's different about Jinx, Wynniewood? Like small community, large, biggest one we got community. What's the challenge between those two that somebody wouldn't realize?
Well, I'd have to think about that because, it's just like anything in life. They both have their challenges. They both have their dark, things that you feel like you need to be able to help do things about. They both have all the positives.
Yeah.
They're just totally different.
Yes.
For different reasons, it's about making, or not making, but it's about having students trust.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I never wanted to do was I never wanted to do anything that might, cause them to lose their trust in me as a leader.
Yeah.
So, you go into Jinx, and it's one of the biggest 6A schools in the state, but it's like a big church. Mm-hmm. You're more about small groups.
Yeah.
You're not ever going to really get to know everyone, but you
Yeah.
recognize faces and you say hi to people and you recognize them from different things that they do if you're willing to pay attention
Yeah.
and be involved. And if you're not, you can certainly disappear,
Yeah.
in a big school like that.
Yeah.
Then in the smaller schools, I think communication was a big issue because people are around each other more, they see each other more, they talk to each other a lot about things, but the communication in the school, I think, was harder.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I think that sometimes you're so together that actual communication kind of stops a little bit.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I did with the girls, well, I'd done it before for specific reasons, but I did it at Wynniewood also, and the girls just took with like crazy. But the game catchphrase,
Yes. Oh,
kind of
yeah.
what the deal is.
Absolutely.
It is
Yeah.
amazing how you can have in a smaller community girls that have known each other since they were born,
Yeah.
they toddled together. They went to the babysitter together. And then you get them in a gym playing basketball, and they will not talk to each other.
Yeah.
You know? So one thing about the girls in the bigger populations, they communicated more because there was so much more to communicate. But then we had to learn to be specific to when it was helpful to our team.
Yeah.
You know, we had to keep a lot of the communication out of the gym because it was distracting.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just that is something that maybe a lot of other coaches wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
But communication, if you don't have good communication, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So developing communication was different in the bigger schools than the smaller schools, and yet it was still a problem both ways. It had to be dealt with in different ways.
I can understand
But
that.
catchphrase, it is so funny to me when you put a group of girls down in a circle and you put that little game down there, and then that timer starts,
Yes.
and they have to communicate to each other.
Is it
It's
chaos?
just like, oh, no, it's just like frozen in time. It's just like you have 20 girls. And everyone just froze up. These are all waiting for this one to give them a idea.
Yeah.
And this one's, you know, and then you play that game about 10 more times over a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they're just,
They've got it.
yeah, okay, I look at this word and I've got to make them understand it
Yeah.
where they can guess it. Well, isn't that kind of what we're doing out on the basketball floor a lot of times?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
nonverbal, verbal. So,
Yeah.
you know, I would let lack of communication frustrate me as a coach a lot of times.
Yeah.
And the game of catchphrase relieved so much of my frustration over time because it helped teach those kids to communicate.
That
And then
is
once they
great.
could communicate with each other,
Yeah.
then I could direct it
That
better.
is great.
So
Hey, that's
That's simple, isn't it?
That's a free of charge tip right there. That is amazing. That
buy
is
a
awesome.
catchphrase game. Well, and two, sometimes, you know, if you're just pounding them and pounding them
Yeah.
and pounding them and pounding them, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get to the end of a hard practice and you still got 30 minutes and you call them in and, you know, you're already taking the posture of the athlete going, oh no,
here we
what
go.
now? Are we going to have to, you know, and you say, okay, you guys have worked hard the last couple of practices. We're going to finish this one out with communication drill. And then
Yeah.
everybody's just like, yeah, catchphrase.
Yeah. I've
So-
seen some of my football coaches do like tag. You know what I mean? It's real intense and then everything. All right, now everybody get together. All right, you're it. And you can't go off the football field. You got to stay inside from the 50 to the goal line.
Yeah.
And they run and they're doing a couple things. They're having fun.
Yeah.
And then they're also running. So they're getting a little workout in,
Yeah.
but they're also just being kids.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
And I want to have fun. I
Yeah.
want to win, but I want to have fun doing it, you know. So that was just another of God's blessings, was putting me in a career where I could enjoy being with kids.
yeah. Okay. So got a few more minutes. So speaking of
Oh, wow.
blessings, we got 15 more, so or 20. So speaking of blessings, I want to hear about your family. Because I know you've got some blessings. You've got I mean, just hearing you talk about your family, you're so proud of them. It's so awesome. And you got reasons to be proud of them. So I want you to talk about
I'm
it a
very
little bit.
proud. You know, it's hard to say my biggest blessing or whatever, you know, because I love my family, but of course the patriarch now, you know, Wendell has put up with me and all of my basketball and sports and all that, and he's like-minded. He was a college athlete, and, you know, we're very competitive people, but, he has been such a blessing to our marriage, I'm sure more than me, because, you know, I'm just always in go mode, you know, and Wendell can just slow it down, back it off, and be nice and calm. And you know, we've been married for 41 and a half years.
That's awesome.
And we have 2 kids, both boys.
Yeah.
Josh is the one that most everybody knows his name.
Yeah.
And he was an all-stater in football and baseball at Stillwater High School. And he played football and baseball at Oklahoma State. And people ask all the time, well, why did he only play 3 years of football? And, your value in baseball really goes down a lot if you go back for your senior year of baseball. Well, he was a number 1 draft pick at the end of his junior year.
Oh, man.
So we had even joked about it, and he said, well, if I'm not the number 1 draft pick, I'll come back for my senior year of football, And he was joking around the house. We were laughing. I don't believe he really thought that at the time.
Yeah.
He was just kind of, if I'm not the number 1. And then the White Sox draft him number 1 in 2004.
So where your pro career ended, his began.
Well, I had a lot of years of coaching in between there, but
your pro career, your pro athlete, you hurt your knee in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Think about that?
I did. I had thought about it before, but not in this conversation. No, yeah, I did. Mine ended there.
Yeah, yours ended there, and his started with the White Sox.
It started with the White Sox, but you know how that minor league system is. It was a little while before he was elevated pretty quickly, but it was a little while before he was in Chicago.
Yeah, and did a phenomenal job when he got up there. Did just a great job.
Josh is very focused, and he's very committed, and he's very loyal, and he loved team sports. And I think that's one of the reasons that he really and truly loved football, because football, you're in the trenches together. You're taking on physical, pain, and not that you're not in other sports, but baseball is more individually, bonded. You can be a great individual. There's just differences in the way the teams bond.
Well, then you can tell it just by watching people that watch baseball. It's stats. It's such a stats-driven thing.
Yeah.
And stats is a lot of the times just a personal one on,
Well, Josh was there 11 years, not with Chicago the whole time, because, of course, toward the end of his career, once the first injury happens, then it's all about rehab. Yeah. And he did a rehab assignment in Campeche, Mexico, because they didn't want him to rehab in minor league. They wanted him to be playing in Major League. And so he went to the Mexican League.
Oh, wow.
He played in the Japanese League for a little while and was able to come back after both of those rehab stints.
Yeah.
But he ended up with he was with the Royals for a while, which was, oh my gosh, that was just an answered prayer. It just didn't last long enough.
Just jog up there, take the motor home, and just run up to Kansas City?
I think I was kind of the day that he was like, well, if I'm not the number 1 pick, I'll just stay around, And I think I said something about, or if it's not the Rangers or the Royals or the Cardinals, you could just stay around, But anyway, the Royals was a great time. They were, playing up there, and it was close. And Jace, at that time, during Josh's career in high school or in college, Jace was in high school. And probably one of the most brutal trips that we made during that time was Jace played football at Ponca City. And that after that football game, he had film and everything the next morning, that was his senior year. So we took off to College Station from Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Smokes. Yeah.
And we were in coats and boots and gloves and sitting out there at a Friday night game, freezing to death.
We were in our Carhartt, Oklahoma Carhartt apparel.
No kidding.
Before it was cool.
And then we get to College Station, drove all through the night. It was like an 11 o'clock morning kickoff. We slept in the car that morning. And then our seats were down about 3 rows off the field on that turf. And it got up to 98 degrees. And I mean,
about melt.
They were carrying people out of the stadium. I mean, it was just crazy. how hot that it was.
Yeah.
And but that was fun. I
Yeah.
never regret it, you know.
Absolutely.
But halfway between Ponca City, Oklahoma, and College Station, Wendell and I are going, "Are we going to make it?"
Yes. Yes. I don't know if you could pick two further places apart. That is
Yeah.
wild.
But
And
our
then-
youngest son,
Yeah, you were telling me about Jace.
he
Jace
is-
sounds like he might be the most interesting man in the Fields family.
yeah, well, Josh even said at an FCA speaking event once upon a time years ago that Jace was the best athlete in the family.
Yeah, I've heard.
And he is the most versatile. He can do anything.
Yeah.
But he's also very creative, you know, minded, and just, you know, and so he was a good athlete, but he was an all-stater in track and field.
Yeah.
He threw the shot and the disc, and then he played football. He was a middle linebacker
Yeah.
at Stillwater. But he had some opportunities to play some football, and he just came to us right off as soon as, you know, things started kind of becoming rumor.
Yeah.
And he said, "Listen, you know, that's Josh's thing. You know,
Yeah.
I just want to go to college, and this is what I want to do, and I want to get a degree in marketing, and I want to join a fraternity, and I want to," and
Yeah.
we're just going, a guy that knows his own mind.
That's right. Yeah, that's
So
right.
anyway, he did all that.
Let's go.
And so that's what he does now.
Yeah.
He lives in Bali, and he is the marketing director for Karma Resorts.
What a life.
Yeah,
And
it's
just-
crazy.
Man. So
And then I got 3 grandkids.
yes, the most important, the grandbabies. Do
Yeah.
you were you do they get treated different than the kids? This is just a
Yes.
personal question because I know my family and how I remember my parents and how my children see my parents. Is there a difference there?
Yes. Yes. I think at times the grandkids can see how I'm a coach,
Yeah.
but I don't, you know, I mean, yeah, they think that I'm the same I was the same with Josh and Jace as I am with them.
Yeah.
And of course you can't do that.
No
it's
way.
just not that way.
You could just spoil them and send them home.
Yeah. But
How old are the grandbabies?
the oldest is going to be 14 next week.
Oh man.
And then we have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Man.
14, 9, and 6, and they're all Josh and Ashley's.
Yeah.
And you know, my daughter-in-law was also a college athlete. She played second base for Oklahoma State.
Jeez, yeah.
So yeah, we go and do, and the kids do. And my oldest grandson told me the other night we were at a junior high football game watching him play.
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, Graham, it seems like it's been a long time since I've been to the ranch." I said, "Man, Caden, it does seem like it's been a long time since you've been to the ranch." But they're busy, and
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Absolutely. Okay, so last question. This is what I like to ask a lot of coaches. How do you want to be remembered as a coach?
I want to be remembered as someone who is caring enough to not want to win at all costs. I think that I've seen things in 41 years of coaching and been able to witness some things that confirmed to me my belief that we don't win at all costs.
Yeah.
You know, there's right and wrong, there's good and bad. We follow the rules. We have a conscience, and then in the midst of that, we want to try to do everything within our capability as a team to be successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing that's confirmed that to me too over time is some of the seasons, and in my career, I've won 556 games.
Oh my gosh.
And I say
that's
it like that
amazing.
because in my competitive mind, I'm like, how long would it take me to get to 600? But no, that's not even in the picture anymore. But, you know, 556 games, and they've all just been a joy.
Yeah.
But some of the games that I remember the most and the seasons that I remember the most were the most difficult, where maybe we only won 6 or 7 games that year. But those kids and I learned a lot. And we gained a lot of trust, and we did all the things that winning teams should do. So those seasons were winners.
Yeah.
And I just think that, that's something that I want to be remembered as a hardcore competitor.
Yeah.
But someone who was caring enough to know that we're not going to win at all costs.
Yeah.
We're going to win the right way and try to do things the right way and look back on it as something that was a good part of our lives rather than, oh, I hated that.
Yeah.
If I ever hear kids say, oh, I just hated playing football when I was in high school, or I just hated playing basketball, it breaks my heart because I've had a lot of kids that weren't starters and weren't really contributing players, but they enjoyed basketball and the team enjoyed them and I enjoyed them, and I don't think they regretted playing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a long answer for a short question.
That's a great answer. That is a great answer. And I feel like you've probably accomplished that.
Good.
So
All right.
I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, you bet. Thank you for being such an ambassador for FCA throughout your whole career. I know you were, and you're kind of legendary in our circles, in FCA circles.
They're legendary to me
Yeah.
because it's doing good for kids.
Yeah.
And John Odell,
Yeah,
just an
John
amazing
O.
guy. And,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to go through all the old guys' names
Yeah.
because you guys are the ones that are
You probably
doing
had
it
to
now.
put up with John Talley, too. Up there
John
at Stillwater.
Talley, yeah, and Todd Thompson.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
the reason I hate to list is because I know I'm going to
No,
leave
we'll just
someone
forget
out.
somebody,
But
absolutely.
Sarah Roberts,
Yeah.
when she came to speak at
Oh, at the winter deal here?
the
Yeah.
Christmas extravaganza.
Yes.
See, I've been involved with Heart to Heart ever
Yeah.
since we came back to Crossway, and it's such a wonderful ministry. And then you were able to get Sarah Roberts to come speak, and Brad to sing, and it's amazing. But I sat there and had a chance to listen to Sarah in a completely different way
Yeah.
because now I'm not a coach, and now and I think it touched me even more.
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought
that's
she was an
awesome.
amazing person when I was coaching, and she was such an ambassador for women coaches.
She's
and
phenomenal.
She is.
I mean, I'm just, anytime I'm around her, I'm just like,
She makes you smile, doesn't she?
I don't know why they let me work FCA.
Yeah. Well, now that's a question for someone like Sarah. How would you like to be remembered? I mean, I would say I would remember her as someone that made me smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can't help it.
I know.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad. I
Yes,
appreciate
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am. What did I tell y'all? Coach Fields, just phenomenal. What a story. What a story. So, I think the next time we come back, we can talk so much more. I want to know more ranching stories. I want to hear more recruiting stories, hers and Josh's. And I think there's just tons of them that we can get to. So thank you, Coach Fields, so much for coming on and giving up your time on the ranch to come hang out with us and be on the podcast. We thank you so much. All right, y'all. That's week 7. Don't forget MW Outdoor Power and Engine Repair. Go by and check them out. Give Luke a big hug for me. He loves hugs. If you haven't already, find us on all your social medias. Insta, Facebook, TikTok. I think that's it. I don't know if we have anything else. That should be it. Go by and check us out. Like, subscribe, all those things. And it really helps us out. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could rate us, leave a comment, that really helps us out. So thank you so much. You guys are just absolutely killing it. As you heard on the podcast, I work for FCA, and FCA is a fundraising ministry. Everything we do is raised by funds by people like you. So if you'd like to join a part of our team and support our ministry, my link is below the show in the notes. Just click on that link and you can come right on and be a member of my team, and I'd really appreciate it, and I'd love to have you. Automatic monthly support is just huge for us, and to continue to get the gospel out there. And listen, y'all, we're going to tell them about Jesus. They better be ready. All right. Thank you, guys. Next week is going to be amazing. Already got some cool interviews lined up, so come back and see us. In the meantime, remember, we love you. God loves you. Now go make a difference this week. Thanks, y'all.